in from recess. So Paul, would you please do roll call?
Councilmember Gustafson-Palmer, Chair, present. Councilmember DeRusso.
Here.
Councilmember Brossette. Councilmember Nguyen.
Present.
We have 3 members in a quorum.
And
Great.
Paul, I think Councilmember Glapion's here too.
And the record will reflect Councilmember Glapion is present.
Great. With that, could we please, do I have an approval of the minutes from January 27th, 2021 meeting?
So moved.
Moved by
Second.
Councilmember, second by Councilmember Nguyen. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Thank you so much. So with that, I think we'll hop right on into the 4th item on our agenda, which is MSY update, a discussion of the current operations and plans for post-pandemic operations. I think we have Kevin Dolio. There he is. Hello. Kevin, thank you so much for joining us today. I think you're on mute. Can we unmute you? I still think you're up. There you are. Let's see. I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Yes, I think I'm coming through now, huh?
You are. Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Great.
Thank you so much. And I know you have a presentation for us today. Paul? Kevin, thank you for coming. I just really wanted, everybody has been so excited, obviously, about the airport, and it was just such a hit to us with the pandemic and your operations. And I know everyone wants to know where you are, where y'all are going with your operations, and how the pandemic has affected the overall operations of the new airport. So with that, I'd love just to be able to turn it over to you for opening comments, walking us through it.
Okay, well, thank you, Madam Chair, members. I'm happy to be here today virtually to update you on activities at the airport, especially in light of the pandemic and its impact on our operations. Let me the first 3 slides are good. It kind of will be a touch of the good old days, if you will, the operations pre-COVID, and then I'll get into the impact of COVID and how things are going today and how we're looking going forward. So if you, next slide, please. So this first slide might look familiar to you guys. It's a slide I've used in presentations for a while that's updated as the numbers tweak or change. But pre-COVID, for the period of 2008 to 2018, we were the 5th fastest growing airport in the top 60 airports in the country. And you can see this slide reflects the percent of passenger growth over that period of time, growth in nonstop destinations, and our all-time record, 13.6 million passengers in 2019. Next slide. So pre-COVID, we were served by 16 airlines to 55 destinations, 8 of those international, and with, of course, the British Airways. Well, they were all good service to have, definitely, but the British Airways service, nonstop service to London being kind of the plum there. So we had different carriers. We had London service, Frankfurt service, Montreal, Toronto, Punta Cana, Panama City, Panama. So we had a pretty good diverse group of destinations internationally. And to this date, I should note, because the question will come later, to this point, every carrier has indicated their intention to resume service here once travel restrictions are lifted and traffic slowly comes back. So to this point, no one's bailing out on the market. Next slide. And then this is an aerial that was shot maybe 2 months before we opened. We opened in November. This shot was in the August-September time frame. Just gives you a good view of the facilities that were developed the 2 parking garages, the surface parking, the 3 concourses, equating to our 35-gate complex over there, and the terminal, they're all attached to. Next slide. So then COVID-19 hits, and everyone's world, including ours, is turned upside down, and things changed significantly, as is reflected on the very next slide. Go to the next slide. That's a pretty graphic depiction of what happened to our traffic immediately upon the onset of COVID. You'll see March had a significant decline. The blue lines are 2019, green bars are 2020. You can see March, we started a pretty significant drop as the impact started about midway through the month. And then April, the first full month of the COVID impact, and you can see we dropped to almost nothing in 2020 as compared to what was going on in April of 2019. And you can see the slow tick up for 3 months. And then that leveling, July, August, September, was about the time there was a second wave, and folks started losing confidence again, and things flattened for 2 through 3 months. And then the slow tick up beginning again in October. November just slightly ahead of October. December was a good month with the holidays. And then we've been January, February, which are typically the slowest months of the year, have been reflective of that even during this period. And those official numbers will come in later. Next slide. So as airports go, you know, airports are self-sufficient. This is really kind of a different world for us. We're not accustomed to needing assistance. We're very self-sufficient. We generate all of our revenues, but our revenue stream is tied to for the most part, to the amount of traffic moving through your facility, and different spends, and the concessions and parking, and the air carriers pushing more operations through, and the fees they pay for landing here, and the space rented, and so forth. So as passenger traffic goes away, of course, you suffer a pretty significant hit in revenues. And as you can see in 2020, for that full year, our revenues were down close to $44 million for that year. Now, we took immediate steps as we could on the expense side, or spending side of the equation, by implementing a hiring freeze, banning non-essential travel. There's basically no travel going on, and hasn't been for months now. We were able to reduce our security and curbside services. We relocated the employee parking lot so they could walk into the terminal, and that afforded us the opportunity to eliminate the employee shuttle at a pretty significant cost savings, and we reduced our marketing budget some. Next slide. The concessions program, or those operators, of course, their sales are passenger driven as well. So they took a significant hit. Their sales were down 47.6%. And right now, 25 of the total operations are open, about half the program. And so, you know, we've worked closely with our operators from the very beginning, and working with them in planning their spooling down as employments and passenger traffic went away, to their slow ramping up on this side of COVID as traffic slowly comes back. We're being very smart in how we're working with them, and not ramping up too quickly, but just ramping up the amount of spaces that the traffic can support, and support profitably. And we've also waived all of the minimum guarantees that were imposed on the concessionaires through the bid process and their contracts, and put everyone on just straight percentage rent. So you only pay a percentage on revenues you're pulling in. You're not paying a minimum guarantee on revenues that are non-existent, and that's helped the concessionaires significantly. Next slide.
I have a
Yes.
question.
Mhm.
In the 25 of the 46 locations, you know, one of the most, I think, amazing things about the new airport was the quality of the vendors. So are they going to come back, the ones that aren't continuing to operate right now? Do you have a guarantee that they will come back? Are they able to come back?
They will, but slowly as the traffic spools up or ramps up to the point that it can support more. They're all geared to come back. You know.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Okay, so there was help for airports around the country. One might imagine that we weren't in this alone. As our traffic was down and as our revenues were down, so was the impact on airports nationwide. In fact, our largest trade organization calculated that airport revenues for 2020 nationwide were down about $23 billion, and expect in 2021 that airport revenues will be down another $17 billion nationwide. So there's been packages that have moved through Congress that supports more than airports, but airports have gotten support out of the packages, and the first one was a CARES package some months back, which was passed, and $10 billion from that package was allocated to airports, and of that $10 billion, we received $42.7 million for our operations. So that about balanced out the $43 million we were down in revenues for 2020. Plus, we're just picking up now an additional $13.8 million from a package that was just passed and approved in December of last year that, again, is pushing support to more than just airports, but $2 billion of it is going to airports, and of that $2 billion, our allocation is $13.8 million, just over $12 million of it for direct support to the airport, and about 1.7 of it to support concessionaires in our operation. So that's relief for concessionaires as well. And it really goes to when we waived MAGs before, that relief was not there for concessionaires, but as that money's there now, as we're waiving MAGs, that's kind of a way airports can recover what they've waived in MAG fees as well. So it helps us both, the concessionaires and the airport. And those funds, outside of the 1.6 dedicated to concessionaire relief, those funds are being used to service debt, for employee retention as we accept these grants. Part of the condition is you're required to maintain your workforce, and these funds go to help as we're keeping our workforce on hand. And they're there to support other critical operations in our operation. And in face of the fact that this is going on longer than was expected, and we can anticipate a number of more months of this downturn, we're hopeful that there's more assistance coming down the road as well.
What is your percentage of employee retention that you're able to do?
When you accept the grants, you're required to maintain at least 95% of the workforce that was on hand before all of this started, and we've been able to work between 95 and 100% of the workforce. Next slide. So there was also a need to ensure the safety of the traveling public if they utilize your facility through this period, and also to take actions that help instill confidence in the traveling public to help and assist in getting people to come back as they needed to travel and use our facilities. So we did a number of things in a program we call the MSY Travel Ready plan, which was a coordinated effort between us and our variety of tenants, the concessionaires, the airlines, and so forth, in our coordinated actions to ensure safe passage as you move through the facility and eventually onto aircraft to fly out of here. So there's a big physical distancing push through signage throughout the facility, floor decals at any point where folks queue, capacity limits on elevators with decals there, limiting capacity to 4 people at a time on an elevator, alternating the closure of escalators to create good physical distance between escalators that are going up and down adjacent to each other, and stickers in the bag claim area around the carousels and so forth, all to encourage good physical separation throughout the facility. Physical barriers wherever there's points where folks interact, say across the counter, at all of the ticket counters, plexiglass barriers, at gate counters, plexiglass barriers, concessionaires checkout locations, at the TSA screening point. So you see those throughout the facility. Really stepped up cleaning, and which has been recognized, and you're going to see more recognition for what we've been doing coming shortly. But really stepped up the cleaning in the facility, sanitizing in the facility, hand sanitizing stations, really a big focus on high touch points, even to the point of cleaning the TSA bins that you use as you move through the checkpoint. And face masks were required in the facility even prior to the recent federal law that dictates face masks in airports nationwide now. Next slide. We also took the extra step in the cleaning and sanitation of the facility, or sanitizing of the facility, to apply for and eventually receive accreditation, the GBAC STAR accreditation. GBAC is the Global Biorisk Advisory Council, who operates through the International Sanitary Supply Association. This accreditation demonstrates that you have the proper procedures and protocols in place to be prepared and to respond to outbreaks and pandemics, and really prepare your facility for that potential moving through the facility. It's kind of third-party validation of what you're doing to ensure safety of the traveling public through your facility. We were also on a lighter note. You all were probably aware, quite aware of the USA Today 10 Best Airport polling that was ongoing for a recent 4 to 5 week period. That started with the USA Today using a panel of experts to select 13 airports nationwide to compete to be listed as one of the 10 best in the country. So we were selected by that panel as one of 13, and through the vote process, we're very thankful that the traveling public voted for us in large enough numbers that we were ranked 3rd best in the country in the large airports in the country. We were 3rd to Denver was 1st. And Atlanta made a last-minute push and took 2nd place, and then we were followed by DFW, and Austin was back there, and Orlando, and a number of very popular, very good airports. So we were in pretty elite company in achieving this. Also recently, our communications department was recognized by one of our national trade organizations, ACINA, through their annual marketing and customer experience awards, and awarded our program for the best overall public relations program in the medium airport category. And then the Public Relations Society of America, the local chapter, the New Orleans chapter, recognized us with five awards in 5 different categories in their list of categories. So very solid recognition in that arena as well. Next slide. So DBE program and the dollar spend there. We through our various DBE, ACDBE, which is our concessions operations, SLDBE programs, and our normal operation as professional service contracts and so forth. Our spend in 2020 was $9.4 million paid to DBE, SLDBE, and ACDBE firms. And in the North Terminal project, we met the commitment of $323 million paid to DBE firms through that program over the life of the North Terminal construction project. And that we also recognize, and really on that note, we're aware that the council recently passed a resolution calling on agencies like ours to leverage minority-owned media outlets. And just to note, over the last 3 years, we've spent $15,000 to $22,000 a year with minority-owned media outlets. And that's out of our annual advertising spend. It's normally about a little over $100,000, but last year it was only half that due to COVID. So it was a $15,000 out of 50. And in addition to the minority-owned media firms, our communications department has also spent more than $300,000 over the last 3 years with minority-owned firms for various services, including website design, marketing campaign development, TV production, photography, etc. So we're very committed in that arena overall, and as we always do, in 2021 we'll be looking to develop more opportunity for minority-owned companies in our advertising budget and overall in our operation. Next slide. And I believe Judith Dangerfield with MetroSource, who consults to us on our DBE program, is on, and we'll talk through a little bit more detail in the next 2 slides on the DBE program. Judith?
Good afternoon, everyone. As you can see, the airport continues to have a very robust program for 2020. If you haven't, I'm going to stop the video so there won't be any problems with the audio. So for 2020, we exceeded our federal DBE goal by almost 5%, with $4.2 million paid to DBE firms. For our concessions program, we exceeded our goal by almost 13%, with $4.1 million to our DBE firms. And for our non-federal spend, we used the 35% goal that the city sets, which we exceeded by almost 18%, with $1.5 million paid to our DBE firms. Next slide. We continue to monitor the closeout of the North Terminal program. We set a goal on construction of 33.09%. Our commitment to date is at 31.33%. And for our construction contractors, we've paid $275 million. We still have about $22 million pending as we close these contracts out. Professional services, we were just short of our goal by less than 1 percentage point. And we have paid $47.9 million to the DBE firms, with a total of $323 million paid to the firms. We are expecting about 31% of all of the payments on the North Terminal project will have gone to DBE firms at the time we close out all the projects.
Okay, thank you, Judith. Any questions?
So under in terms of the construction and the total, you feel that after everything is closed out, you will have hit the marks? Is that what y'all are anticipating?
Yes, after we've closed out all of the projects and all of the retainer payments have been made to all the firms, we anticipate we'll be within 1 point of the goal that was set for the project.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Judith. And next slide. So going forward into 2021, of course, I mentioned a lot of measures we've taken to ensure the safety of the traveling public. But as COVID-19 continues, as the impact continues, and as we're closely monitoring the industry and developments of techniques or methods to further enhance the safety of the traveling public moving through the facility, we'll be tuned into that and making improvements as we see there's measures that are worthy of taking to build on top of everything we've done already. The Taxiway G project is a very critical safety project for the airport and has full FAA support. That project is ongoing. Construction has started, and we'll get through most of the construction this year, and with that being completed in 22. Taxiway G is, if you think of the east-west runway, the north side of the east-west runway is served by a taxiway that doesn't extend to the end of the east-west runway. That wasn't very important when our operation was on the south side, but with more activity on the north side now, it was important to extend that taxiway. So that's ongoing, and that project takes the taxiway out to the end of the runway. We are currently soliciting to select a firm to complete a master plan. The master planning process will give us a 20-year look ahead and identify our needs and help us map out needs for the airport and development for the airport over that 20-year horizon. Some of that will fall out and impact how we develop the South Campus at the end of the day. And with the South Campus, we'll continue with some activity there that we know has to occur, and ensure we preserve the South Campus for what falls out of the master plan and what identified aeronautical needs are going forward. The DBE and SLDBE programs, of course, continue to meet or exceed those participation goals. Air service is a different animal. Through a period like this, when air service has been impacted so significantly, typically you're out recruiting air carriers to provide service to markets you've identified that are worthy but aren't being served. And that's typically your focus, and you interact frequently with air carriers in that regard. Through a period like this, your focus shifts some, and there's more attention paid to retention of the service. You want all of that service to come back after you get through this period. So you're in contact with the air carriers on an even more frequent basis, just discussing activities in the area, changes made, how traffic's coming back, keeping them tied to, interested in, and informed on the market, working to retain the services. And as I mentioned earlier, all of the international carriers have currently expressed their intent to return service when the travel restrictions are lifted and traffic slowly comes back. We just will keep working that, though, in hopes that continues to be their outlook as we continue through this period. Cost for employment, as always, we work to maintain a competitive cost structure so that we're more competitive in pulling air carriers in and air service to the market. So with that, that's kind of our world right now and how we're reacting to it. And I'll take any questions if you have any further questions.
Sure. When I'm very interested in the air service and retaining what we had before. So when some of these airlines received the CARES Act money, was it also any type of contingency plan on them maintaining their level of service after this to the different airports?
Only to very small critical air service communities where airlines are incentivized to provide some service. In the typical market like ours, it's more a matter of what the traffic drives going forward. On the domestic side, and of course on the international side, it's the combination of travel restrictions being lifted and traffic returning. Their bigger commitment outside of the tiny market commitment was a commitment to retain employees if they received that assistance from the federal government.
So have you heard of any permanent loss yet of an airline carrier in our
Not
market?
yet. Not to this point, and we're in constant communication because, of course, we're very tuned into that and concerned. So we're constantly communicating with our air carriers, and everyone's in affirmative coming back at this point.
And have there been any future projections from the travel industry in terms of what this year is going to bring?
What our industry sees is a return to 2019 traffic levels not until 2024. However, the industry does see a good tick up in traffic towards the latter part of this year after the vaccine is widely distributed and a higher level of confidence comes back to the traveling public. The industry sees late summer through the end of the year good tick up, not 2019 levels, but a significant bump towards the end of the year.
And so have there been there have been a lot of studies and concerns about cities and economic recovery, especially cities that have a reliance on the tourism industry, right? With the thought being that we will lag behind other cities that have a more robust and diverse economy. And so there is concern in New Orleans that our tourist economy will come back later. Has there been any substantial studies done even locally that's reflecting this?
Well, I can tell you from an industry perspective, what our industry sees and it is predicting is that leisure traffic will come back quicker than business traffic. And this recovery is going to favor cities that have a higher level of leisure traffic moving through them, like ours. So we should be in a more favorable position as it relates to the overall recovery in the industry. At least that's our industry's outlook.
And I think that would probably fit with the description of having a pent-up demand in terms
Yes.
of, and that New Orleans being that type of destination could potentially help us.
Right, absolutely.
Thank you. I appreciate your thorough report. It makes a great deal.
Thank you.
I've been very anxious to see this. Council members, do you have any questions or comments of the director? Well, hearing none, I just want to thank you again for coming, and we appreciate your report.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Take care. Excellent. Wow, that's an interesting screen that we have. Hello, Mr. Wiggins. How are you?
Hey, good afternoon, Madam Chair. How are you?
Doing great. I'm sorry, I'm looking at my computer and the way I haven't seen this one before. Well, okay, excellent. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
We're definitely hitting all of our transportation options today in our committee. I want to thank you for being here. One of the reasons we wanted you to come to discuss your current operations, but also how our operators are faring and what that looks like. And I would just love to turn it over to you. I'm not sure if you have a presentation or not, if you would just like to talk in general terms.
Just a brief verbal presentation. We had our board meeting yesterday, and so we're getting caught up with everything we need to do. But Madam Chair, thank you for the opportunity to update the council. Council members, again, thank you for the opportunity to update you on RTA operations. And so I'll definitely cover essentially how we have been functioning during COVID, its impact on service, the impact on the staff, and then most importantly, our planning moving forward. You may recall at the peak of the onset of COVID, we, like transit agencies across the country, had to reduce service in response to reduced ridership. Ridership demand in March and April of last year, for the most part, reduced by 90% on our streetcar operation and almost 70% on our bus operation and about 90% on our maritime operation as well. And so we had to reduce service to reflect that. in order to make sure that we could cover our operating costs. So for the last year, we have really been operating at about 80% of our normal service. And what we're seeing now is a gradual return of ridership on all modes, bus, streetcar, and ferry. And so we are now beginning to increase service on certain lines, and specifically the 39 two-lane, the 91 Esplanade, and the 94 Broad. We're actually, instead of operating at 80%, in order to keep up with ridership demand, we had to bring that up to about 100% of our service. So we made that change last week to make sure that we could still provide adequate mobility, but adequate spacing as well. And we are now planning, and this is what I briefed our board on yesterday, based on the region beginning to recover from COVID, based on vaccinations happening across the country in our region, we are now planning for a full return by fall. By fall, very optimistic that the economy locally will recover and our ridership will return. And so we are now in the planning process, and we'll present those options to our board of directors in the second quarter as to how do we phase a full return to transit service. I remain optimistic. I live downtown, and so I'm seeing activity pick up. I'm seeing, more of our tourists visiting our beautiful city. Hotels are starting to fill up again, and our sales tax revenue, we're starting to see those dollars increase as well. So we want to be positioned to have full operating service well before we have a full return to the economy, because I think we have to make sure we're ready to transport folks to where they need to go when they're ready to travel there. And so I remain optimistic that by fall we'll be back at 100%. The workforce is definitely hanging in there. As of now, we have 2 active cases of COVID among our staff, and we only have 5. Literally, we have over 800 employees, so 2 cases of COVID and 5 employees that are in quarantine right now. Thanks to federal funding, we've received over $60 million in federal funding this year through the CARES Act. We've been able to maintain employment. We've not had to lay off a single employee as a result of the impact of COVID. And so that really was the commitment made by our board and shared by our executive staff. And so I'm really happy that we've really managed to get through this very difficult year and not having to lay anyone off as a result of COVID. And so I anticipate that will be the case moving forward. The ridership has been very cooperative for the most part, with the increased emphasis on wearing masks. We are now in the process of installing mask dispensers on all of our equipment. So for those occasional riders who don't have a mask, they'll just be able to take one. We did that early in the year. We're just going to make that a permanent option for now to make it easier. So I don't really have any challenges to report on where the ridership is there. Right now, we're working very closely with the City of New Orleans, State of Louisiana, on Oshner, LCMC, as well as Tulane Medical Center on vaccinating our employees. As you may recall, the city has opened up vaccinations to all RTA employees 55 and up who meet certain medical conditions. Concurrent to that effort, we're working with the State Department of Health to do what's called a closed pod, a vaccination effort specifically at RTA, as the governor announces that phase 1B tier 2, all RTA transit employees will be eligible, and we're looking to provide on-site vaccinations there. That planning is underway.
So my understanding is the paratransit has already been approved, correct?
Paratransit, and that begins on Friday. So paratransit, the city reached out to us earlier in the week, and we're going to begin vaccinating our paratransit employees on Friday of this week.
Great.
VA has reached out to us as well. The Veterans Administration is vaccinating all RTA employees that fit certain criteria that are eligible veterans as well. So we have a number of options available. We're really excited about the on-site closed pod vaccination effort that we hope will kick off in a matter of weeks, where we'll be able to get the vast majority of our employees. Concurrent to that effort, we're also working with Oshner, we're working with Tulane Medical Center, and with LCMC for those employees who may want to receive vaccination offsite. So all of that is underway now, but with the first big push with our transit operators happening on Friday of this week.
Great. Okay. And so that there's been, so that's exciting. So you're being proactive with these different entities in order to sign up any of your employees that request it now. So that's being communicated to with all the operators as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. Both in terms of our communication via, mass communication and verbally, but we're also surveying our employees. And right now we're trending almost 50% of our employees have expressed a willingness to accept the vaccine.
Okay.
We want to increase those numbers. And so we're working with Dr. Corey Hebert to meet with our staff and actually facilitate workshops to help increase the comfort level with regard to the vaccine and efficacy as well. Ideally, I would like every employee to be vaccinated, but we want to make sure we address their underlying concerns.
And as you're seeing the ridership go up, have there been any challenges in terms of my concern is if as the ridership goes up, are you still monitoring how many people are allowed on the bus at one time?
We are, and the crowding is a really big issue. And that's what made us make the adjustments on the 91, the 94, and the 39, because we found that despite our best efforts, there was more demand for mobility there than we were providing. And so we'll actually have to monitor that on streetcar as well. What we know about the St. Charles line, the weekend, the ridership quadruples in many cases. And so we have to add additional service to make sure we can provide mobility, but still maintain a safe environment. And so we actually monitor that in real time, and we can make real-time adjustments to service.
And how are y'all doing that, monitoring it real time and making the adjustments? Is there just, if you could explain to the public, do you have notification that comes over the wire to notify that you cannot stop this, so the bus driver doesn't make another stop if the bus is already at capacity?
Yeah, essentially, we're looking at on our coaches, on our bus coaches, once the operator believes that he or she has a condition that is an unsafe crowd, in many cases, it's more than 20 to 25 passengers, they radio into dispatch, and we literally have buses in the field that can instantly pick up those routes. And so we respond that way. And we'll do the very same thing in the streetcar operation. We have staff standing by, especially on the weekends where we know we're going to have increased ridership. So yes, once we hit a certain target, we don't want to operate in a standing room only environment during COVID. So we address that in real time. And
it's the responsibility of the bus driver to contact y'all to say that they're at capacity, or is there a sensor? How does that work?
We actually rely on the operator to actually give us direct feedback. And so in real time, they radio the dispatcher saying, hey, I've got 20, 25 people on my bus. There are people waiting. We need additional resources. Let's get them out now.
Great. Excellent. Okay, well, are there any questions? I really appreciate you being here for the update. I know it's very important. And can we go back to that pod again? So we're anticipating, when will that be, to do on-site vaccination at the RTA?
Right. Our board of directors just approved the CEA yesterday at our board meeting, and we're working directly with the state now. So I anticipate that will happen as soon as the governor releases the additional vaccine for transit workers, which is phase 1B tier 2. And we hope that that's going to happen in the next couple of weeks. And that will actually enable us to receive vaccine. We're going to work directly with Ochsner to actually facilitate the vaccination, but it will be on site. So I'm optimistic that that will occur in the coming weeks.
Great. Well, I just want to thank you for being thoughtful and doing that CEA right now, so you don't have to wait on that the vaccine to actually hit the place. So thank you.
Thanks, Madam Chair.
Council members, do we have any questions for Mr. Wiggins? No? Well, that's it.
Well, while I'm here, I have a couple of updates that I owe Councilmember Nguyen. We worked on a service standards update. There were a couple of bus stops that we have to move. Our board is going to take that up in April. We briefed them, and so we should be able to take action once we have that new policy in place, coming very, very soon. So thank you for your patience with us on that.
Wonderful. So I'm hoping that West Barrington is on that list.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
All right, excellent.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Wiggins. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Great. Well, onwards and upwards. Next, we have, let's see, do we have Mr. Paul Marino with us? And
Yes. How are you doing today?
there we are. Okay. All right, council members. Next, we have a review on ordinance calendar number 33-245, which is an ordinance to reorganize the Ground Transportation Bureau. I would like to introduce Paul Marina. Paul, you are the new interim deputy director of the Ground Transportation Services. And I would like you to introduce yourself and Mr. Marcello Barbaro. Am I saying that correctly?
It's Marcello Barbaro.
Marcello Barbaro. I should have known that. All right. Well, thank you for you both being here. Paul, welcome on board. And
thank you.
This is the first time I think that you have presented, and I don't think we've even met face to face yet. So.
Right. That's correct. Nice to meet you virtually.
So why don't you give the background for this ordinance to the public?
Well, I'm actually going to defer to Marcello as he's going to be the Deputy Director of Public Works. He's going to be leading us on this. So I'm going to go ahead and defer Marcello.
Great.
Okay. Well, hey, thank you, Madam Chair and members of Council. My name is Marcello Barbaro. I am the Deputy Director of Administration for the Department of Public Works, and I am the lead point of contact for this ordinance and for this transition, actually. And that's, like I said, I just want to thank you guys for this opportunity to come here and talk about this. One of the key things I just want to make sure I kind of put out in the very forefront of this ordinance is that this ordinance will not affect any of the substance or existing rules or regulations, but it just transfers oversight from safety and permits to DPW. And that's and what the other thing is that DPW is very excited to kind of put all these in-house here. And thanks for moving to the next slide. So, and as we go along, if anybody has questions as we go along with this, definitely please ask, because this is a very, very short presentation. But the big thing about this is why this was looked at moving the Ground Transportation Bureau into DPW is really for the coordinated right-of-way management. And it's integrating with the existing DPW processes into GTB's operations. And we're already kind of seeing this when we started working this out, seeing how integrated this is with parking and how integrated this is with towing. It's a natural fit. And then it also, from a DPW perspective, this also keeps all the right-of-way management in one place, which is great for us, which includes our traffic engineering and permitting. And it really gives us great insight into this stuff. And then the other stuff that really gets me with all of this here is the increased efficiency of city ordinance enforcement, the coordination between the parking and towing divisions, which also means looking at sidewalks, looking at brake tags, looking at tour groups, and the consolidated adjudication hearing center, which is a major cost savings because we already have an adjudication hearing center. We can have all these code enforcement done in one place. It also gives the Ground Transportation Bureau increased enforcement of all areas as we start coordinating with our parking division and our towing division to making sure that all the different ordinances are enforced. And then the other thing, which is usually kind of near and dear and falls really into my heart, is looking at utilizing the technology that we're already using at DPW and putting those best practices to work as we've gone away from using paper and using digital, and that's exactly how we're going to bring the Ground Transportation Bureau to. The big thing with this also is continuity of operations. Like I stated in the beginning, this ordinance doesn't affect the existing regulations. Right now we're looking at having a very smooth transition from a human resource aspect and an administrative standpoint, which is why I've taken the lead on this, is making sure the employees move over smooth, making sure we're looking at within the whole department, because a lot of our folks actually used to work for us as parking enforcement officers and became part of the Ground Transportation Bureau because that was an advancement opportunity. So we're looking now at going, hey, let's see, how can we make this grow so we can make sure we keep good people and people can move up and things like that. Without that, like I said, we're very excited here in DPW. We've been working with this since last year. And this ordinance we feel is a really good move for us because it puts a lot of consolidation and a lot of operations in one place.
Well, I'd like just for you to expand on a few things, because I think for the public, for just hearing this, they think of DPW, as our streets, and they don't really understand why ground transportation would go under your department. I don't think they understand that already currently in your department are all of our PCOs, right? Our parking control officers.
Yep, that is correct. Yeah, and Councilwoman, you're exactly right. A lot of people don't realize the vastness of the Department of Public Works, where it also, all parking enforcement falls under us, along with all the towing falls under us. And that's why the Ground Transportation Bureau was a natural fit, because that enforcement arm within the right of way and within the sidewalks, that's exactly what we do. And that's why this became a natural fit. And I thank you for bringing that up, because I always bring it up because a lot of people they always think that we're just fixing potholes or we're doing projects around the city. And there's a very, very large portion of our department that has to do with enforcement and also giving permits as well.
And so let's talk a little bit about like that as well. When we talk about parking enforcement too, that can occur 24/7. Is that correct?
That is correct. That is correct. We have people on call. We also have, like I said, our towing division, which does enforcement as well. In fact, we all use the same equipment. Ground transportation and DPW uses the same to give the same summonses to people. So yeah, yes, it's 24/7. It can be, especially as we expand.
And so ground transportation usually doesn't operate 24/7. So now we will have greater ability to enforce and to respond to constituent issues. Is that true?
That is what we're looking at, and that's going to be one of the as the Ground Transportation Bureau becomes part of DPW is looking at what we can expand. Right now, the Ground Transportation Bureau has about 15 folks in it, and we're looking at going, hey, if we give our parking enforcement officers the ability to start summonsing for some of the other stuff that Ground Transportation Bureau used to do or does currently, that'll expand. And that's one of the that's the administrative look that we're looking at as we're bringing the Ground Transportation Bureau in. So that is one of our goals, is to expand the enforcement.
So for instance, in my district, which covers the French Quarter, we often have parking issues and things that happen. It's a 24/7 community, but we also have tours that usually fall under the Ground Transportation Bureau. But my office often receives complaints, at least before COVID, when you would have these large tours in the evenings that aren't following guidelines. Especially, we would receive a lot of complaints in the evenings when you would have multiple tours on each corner, right? So according to code, you can only have a tour, a night tour on one corner of an intersection. But often if you go down there, they'll be on all four corners. And you can imagine, and especially during COVID, you can imagine what that does in terms of crowd control, but then also what it does in terms of quality of life for residents down there. And so how would that change under the oversight in DPW?
So one of the positive changes about that would be utilizing, again, our parking division. They would be our eyes on the ground to either confirm, let's say if your office got the call, and that way we can figure out the best way to either cite the group and move forward, because that's actually something we're already looking at, trying to figure out, again, how to expand this out, and giving the Ground Transportation Bureau, a bigger ability to cite things like that. Exactly. And that's one of the things that, again, we're going to look at as we bring this on board, knowing that, I have parking enforcement out there. We have our towing that's out there all the time as well too. When they see things, or they can respond to a call, that way either they can summons or we can figure out the best practice moving forward on that.
So you're going to be absorbing those 15 that are currently within ground transportation into yours, and then you're going to have to cross-train all of the.
It's probably gonna be a combination of cross-training and coordinating as well. That's our goal. We've actually at one point last year had even cross-trained about even just verifying just brake tabs with our parking enforcement. And that's another division of the Ground Transportation Bureau. Making sure we can enforce what we need to enforce. And that's again, as I'm looking through the different ordinances and as we're coordinating with, and we're actually starting next week, we're going to start meeting with Ground Transportation Bureau employees and seeing what's going to be the best way to cross-train and coordinate within the department.
Okay, great. Council members, do we have any other comments or questions?
I do, Councilmember Palmer.
When?
Yes. So I really appreciate the presentation, and I just wanted to put on you guys' radar that I am very much interested in learning about the new system, but also sitting down with you guys in reference to the challenges that we face in District E in reference to coordination of picking up abandoned vehicle, all sorts of issues. And it's been the towing and the parking issue has been one that I've been diving into for several months now. And I would really appreciate if we have a moment to sit down and maybe cross-educate each other, cross-educate my team, because the abandoned cars literally has been sitting, and I pulled the data from 2020 in my district set for 51 days. And I know there's resources that we're talking about, but we just got to come up with a better system. So I'm excited about, the transition, but I also want to make sure that we are all on the same page, and would love the opportunity to sit down and collaborate.
I agree, Councilwoman, and I will definitely bring that up to the other Deputy Director of Operations, and also Ramsey at this point, since we don't have a full director appointed here. But definitely we will bring that up and see if we can make that
All
happen.
right. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Are there any other questions or comments? And I do, I'd like to piggyback on what Councilmember Nguyen said. I do think that's an issue. Maybe we could even have an agenda item on towing, especially towing vehicles. I know I have issues in my district with a vacant lot, and with, if an abandoned vehicle on that vacant lot, and how difficult it is to be able to remove it, especially if you can't track down a property owner or contact them. And I know we're looking at allowing different access and resources for NOPD to access those types of vacant properties and lots. And I'd really be interested to see if there's a way we can add getting onto those lots as well, DPW, to remove some of these vehicles.
Like I said, yeah, we'll take that as a meeting, and I'll bring it back to the team, see what we can do and move forward with that.
Okay. Oh, okay. We just got it's interactive up here. We got a constituent question regarding if a mobile car wash parks in front of another person's business and sets up shop and has clients to come out to get washed, who do they call?
I would either say 311. That way we can get it reported, and that's how we get all our information of any violation. That would be the best bet at this point. Paul, I'm not too sure how that normally happened with you guys, but if there's somebody parked in the right of way, normally it would be people will call 311, and I know we have a system set up with 911 call center where we get the calls right away for somebody to get out there and look, or call the parking division.
Okay, we've actually had this concern before where they found out they're actually stealing their water to operate the mobile car wash as well. That was a good one. All right, excellent. Any other comments or questions regarding this particular agenda item? Do we need to vote on this? We do need to vote on this. Okay, I would like to recommend that this goes forward. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Okay, I'm going to second it. I'm not sure. Is Councilman Giarrusso still here? I know he had to leave for a meeting. So I think it's just the two of us, which is not, it's not quorum. We'll send it to the council, but we'll have to take it up and vote with the council, if that's okay.
That's cool.
All right, thanks. Thanks for sticking there with me, Cindy. We just got
no problem.
All right, next we have item number 7, which is non-emergency medical transport matching city and state requirements for insurance. Paul, are you still on? Paul Marina, Interim Deputy Transportation Services Enforcement. Thank you, Paul. So I would like you to quickly explain what this is about.
Sure, thank you. So currently, City Code does not have a clear minimum on general commercial liability insurance for non-emergency medical providers. Last year, towards the end of last year, the Louisiana Department of Health established a minimum in administrative code under the state. So this proposal mirrors that requirement of $100,000.
And that's basically it. We're just following.
Yeah, as simple as that.
We like that. We like that simplicity. We would move and send this along to full council, but it's just me and Cindy. So I think we're just going to send it on and we'll take questions there. I just hope that you can make yourself available. Okay, great, excellent. Well, thank you, Paul. Cindy, did you have any other
Thank you.
or follow-ups? No? Well, I can't even make a motion to adjourn, so I've often wondered if that means you're in a perpetual meeting until the next meeting. No, probably not, though. All right, well, with that, I think I'll just end the meeting. Thank you so much, Paul. Again, welcome on board. I look forward to the time we can meet face-to-face.
Thank you, likewise.
Head of this committee. And so with that, we will adjourn.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much. Take care. Be safe.